everybody, welcome back to Pagan's Witchy Corner. My name is Pagan, and I am back with a guest that was here just a few weeks ago, not very long ago. The beautiful and the amazing Judika Illes. You know her from her book of Encyclopedia of Spirits, which we're going to talk a lot about today. Last time she was here, she was talking about her book Pure Magic, which was her first book that has been reprinted with this gorgeous cover. You guys, if you want to, you can always pause this recording and go back and listen to that interview, which was amazing and so much fun. So if you want to catch up with her in the beginning, pause this one, go listen to that one, and then come right back, because we will be here talking about all sorts of really great topics, especially topics for the month of Pride. So Judika, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so happy that you were here. We had so much fun talking last time, and this time I think is going to be equally
Yeah.
just as fun. And also to all of our listeners out there, happy Pride if you're somebody that celebrates Pride. And I hope you're having a safe and wonderful and blessed Pride. So, Judika, when I asked you to come back, I wanted to specifically talk about how do we create an altar, especially an altar in this really trying time, that protects all of our friends who are trans and LGBTQIA and women and children, because right now they just seem to be the focus of everybody's targets.
It's bad.
It's very
It's
bad.
just I don't know how. I mean, I guess the world has always been hateful,
Mm-hmm.
but it just seems like, it's really, at least in the US, it's really, really been dialed up.
Oh,
It's
yes.
just very, very, very disheartening to see, you can't go to supermarket, can't get to the subway, can't go to school, can't go to a place of worship. You have to worry about your safety in places that you should be safe. It's just awful.
It is absolutely awful. And it's one of those things that we've seen it coming for many, many years. This is not necessarily a new phenomenon of especially all the violence that we've seen,
Right.
but it does seem like somebody left the pot of violence and hatred on the stove for far too long, and now it's boiling over and
Now it's
making a
boiling
big
over.
old mess.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, how many shootings over the weekend? It's just like
uh, I don't know over the weekend. I want
unbelievable.
to say there was at least three that I know of over this
Uh,
weekend.
I think maybe last weekend there was like five. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just
I want to say since Uvalde, there's
horrible.
been like almost 25 to 30 shootings that I know of. I don't even
Yeah.
know if they've been counted all because
And those are the ones with fatalities,
yeah,
just to say how many. Like, I mean, I think it makes people very hardened if if you don't, if it's just like a shooting and no one dies.
hmm,
Like, I think people just ignore it at this point, which is just terrible. We deserve better than that,
yes, we absolutely
all of
do.
us.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a disturbing kind of trend that is just getting more disturbing as the days go by. So that's kind of why I really wanted to have you back on the show, especially to talk about what can we do as witches and magical practitioners to really help protect our friends that are really suffering. And I know everybody is suffering. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that everybody is not suffering in some way, shape, or form.
Well, no, actually, I think some people suffer more than others. I
I
mean, let's
do.
I mean, we can't. Some people suffer more than others, and I mean,
Yes.
maybe we all have periods of suffering in our life. And when we are suffering and the pain is very immediate,
Hmm.
it may feel that our suffering is the worst. You hit your elbow or you stub your toe, and at
Yes.
that moment, it may be excruciating, but it's not the same thing.
No, it is definitely not the same thing. And,
And I think some people live in fear more than other people. I think
yeah.
some people, um, I mean, I watch the news. I see people walking around with, treating other people badly and walking around with their guns. And, maybe some people should be a little more afraid. They seem to think that they can walk around with impunity. So, and
Absolutely.
other people are afraid to, leave their homes. So
Hmm.
that doesn't seem fair.
No, it doesn't seem fair. And I know that a lot of people in our country right now, especially the minority groups that I was mentioning before, and, always people of color who have always been a target of these same groups, it seems to be something that just is getting so much worse than it has been. And maybe this is almost a naive way to even mention this, is to say that it seems worse than it was before. But truthfully, I don't know if it really was worse than it was before. It may have always just been bad, but now there's
It
cameras
depends. It
everywhere
depends
pointing
when
at
and
it.
where. I
Yeah.
mean, it depends when you wear it, and in some ways it's better.
Mm-hmm.
In some ways it is better. Um, but I think hateful people who, for I'm old enough to say that for a couple decades there, were hateful discreetly.
Right.
They're very bold right now
Yes.
in a way that they haven't been for a while. It's like they were bold for a while, and then they knew they had to not be so bold, and suddenly they have become emboldened again in the last few years. And I mean, that's a topic unto itself. And
Yes.
I mean, I'm not an authority in that. I can talk to you about altars and
Mm-hmm.
spirits, and those are two different things, really. You don't. I would like to tell people, you don't need an altar for spirits,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't need spirits for altars either. Um, but they intersect, and
Yes.
I love both of them. And for me, they intersect beautifully. And I teach. I could teach altar building classes for a weekend. That's a huge, huge topic. Um, but there are some basics. It's not the altar. It's not the altar itself that provides the protection,
Mm-hmm.
other than it can give people a sense of confidence to see it.
Yes.
And when you have that confidence and you feel that you are plugged into the sacred, that it, right there, that provides you with a measure of protection. Because you know you have to be smart, and you have to be, and when I say smart, I don't mean in terms of intelligence, but discerning. Maybe that's a better
Mm-hmm.
word. You have to be discerning. You have to see the threat coming at you when it's coming at you, and you have to know when to take action. We were talking about deer
Mm-hmm. Yep.
before we started taping. And deer are prey animal, and are actually one of the animals associated with one of the deities I'm going to speak about today. But you watch deer. I have deer in my yard all the time, and it's
Mm-hmm.
very interesting because the deer hang out in my yard, and when the residents of my home come outside, they don't run.
Yeah.
They kind of look at me, but they but they know. I mean, I'm happy to see them, and I'm not going to bother them. But I've also seen them run from other people,
Mm-hmm.
same deer, and apparently they chased one of my neighbors, which you
Yeah.
know,
Deer can be mean. We've had deer chase
well,
us here too.
yeah,
They can be just as mean as any other animal. They will defend themselves if dangerously if necessary. But we often think of deer as very meek animals that are just like, oh yeah, they're just prey. If you
but
get a
they're
deer
not.
mad enough, they will hurt you.
Yeah, no, 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 absolutely. But you have to think, if we are subject to predatory people, we also have to have that, when do you run? When do you attack? When do you stand your ground? All those things.
Yes.
Those are discerning decisions, and sometimes you have to make them very quickly, and an altar can help with that.
Mm-hmm.
But what actually does the protection might be the objects on an altar, or it might be the spirits associated with the altar.
Yes.
Um, and I point that out because altars, although they are spiritual, I know a lot of atheist witches, or a lot of witches who do not want to. I mean, maybe because I wrote the Encyclopedia of Spirits and Mystic Saints and Sages, people tell me when they don't want that. We don't
Mm-hmm.
want spirits, and so you can have an altar without them. You can have an altar just for your land spirits if you want, or for no spirits if that's not a thing. An altar is a tableau, and I think it's one of the earliest human arts. If you have ever hung out with toddlers, like in nature, like 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds,
Mm-hmm.
You watch them, they'll start collecting things like
Yes.
nail shells and pebbles, and then they'll start arranging them. And what they're doing instinctively is the basis of altar building. It is a tableau of objects intended. I mean, it could just be creating a sacred space
Hmm.
or a space of power or an expression of your spirituality, whatever that is. But it
And
can also be, an invitation to a spirit or a tribute to a spirit. And
yes.
there's so many things you can do with it. It's very, very powerful. Like a very simple ancestral altar. And if you want protection, regardless of who you are and what your danger is, the ancestors are always your ancestors. And when we talk about ancestors, we're not talking about grandma necessarily. I mean,
Hmm.
it could be, or great grandma, or 4 generations back. We are all walking miracles. All of us who are alive because every single one of our ancestors hundreds of thousands of years ago. And if you are here, you have ancestors hundreds of thousands of years ago. Every single one of them stayed alive long enough to reproduce,
Hmm.
and somebody cared for the children.
Yes.
And when you think about the history of violence and illness and infant mortality and starvation, we are all miracles. The thing about ancestors is they only exist if there are descendants. And so it's a different kind of a relationship. I'm going to talk about Artemis, but Artemis exists whether, if the neutron bomb goes off, there are no people. Well, Artemis is still here,
Hmm.
maybe without venerators, but still here. Uh, Ancestors only, they're part of a chain. And you can always ask your ancestors to protect you. You don't have to like them. But it's not ancestor veneration. I think that's a hard thing for people because some people have problematic ancestors. You
Yes.
don't have to like them. And also, you have so many, you
Hmm.
have thousands. There's going to be one you like, even if you don't know who they are. Ask for the benevolent ancestor, ask for your guardian. And just this, the simplest ancestral altar is a glass of water, a vessel of water. It has to be open.
Hmm.
Um, in any kind of it's the basis of sort of spiritualist altars to summon the dead. You
Yeah.
bring in it has to be open, and ideally like a teacup is better than a mug. You want as big a surface as you can. You can do a bowl of water, but if you only have a glass, you can work with a glass. Put some i, I like spring water. I try to not use tap water for it
Hmm.
just because it's a little more treated.
Right.
But work with what you have. If you find yourself in a hotel room or that Airbnb and you're scared, fill up take the glass from the bathroom, fill it up with like some tap water and start from there, and then just speak with them, because what an altar is, it's a central point. It is a point of power, and it is a place where power converges, and you can do all sorts of things with it. But and if you can burn a candle too, that's great. If you've got something you think they'll like, that if you do want grandma, and you knew grandma really, really liked this butterscotch candy, and every time it's the thing where every time you look at that butterscotch candy, you think about grandma.
Yes.
um that's the thing to offer to her. The thing that when you look at something, it brings you back a memory. The pack of Marlboros, that is like, oh, that's my dad, that's my mom. That thing where you can't look at it without thinking of them.
Yes. Absolutely.
That's the thing. So put it out, call them with it. And that is, in a nutshell, that's how you call spirits too. The thing that contains their essence, the thing that when they see it or they, apprehend it, however you want to understand that, they recognize themselves, and it creates a vessel for them. So, that's pretty, the thing with altars is you can use altars for all sorts of reasons, and that's just a
Absolutely.
real basic thing. Yeah.
Yes. I have so many altars in my house. It's not even funny. Because, you have an altar. I have an altar in my kitchen for the
Sure.
kitchen witchcraft. I've got a healing altar in my bedroom that's specific to all types of healing. I have my main altar, which I do all my witchcrafty stuff at. But, I have so many altars scattered. My daughter's got her own altar that she does her
Yeah.
own stuff with.
Yeah,
And
me too. Yeah.
she will go and be like, "Hey, can I put this on my altar?" And I'm like, "It's your altar. You can put whatever you want on it. I'm not telling you how to do this."
Yeah. That's great.
And she's like, "Okay." And then she'll come out and she's like, "Look at this rock. I'm gonna go put it on my altar." And I'm like, "Okay, you have 50 already, but okay."
Well, altars are, I mean, not all of them, but they're typically created from love.
Yes. Yes. She
The
loves to
power of
collect
love.
rocks and
Yeah.
all sorts of cool things to put on her altars, which, of course, being a witchy mom, that just is like, "Oh, it's so cute. I love it. Keep going." But yeah, so if we were to build a altar that would be specific to helping the groups of LGBTQ trans kids, women and children of all types and walks, how would we go about doing that? What could some people put on their altars that would be beneficial to even starting to connect with some of the spirits that you want to talk about?
Well, first of all, let me preface this by saying every altar is unique.
Mm-hmm.
If only because even if three people build an altar using the same mass-produced items, they're not going to be arranged 100% identically,
Yes.
and you're going to have your own energy. You are what, as an individual, you are what makes your own altar unique. I am going to talk to you as someone who loves spirits. Um, if you if you are not a spirit lover, then I think you start by taking objects that represent safety to you, whether they are, candles or crystals or statuettes or anything like that, and
Mm-hmm.
arranging them. But I'm a spirit lover, so I'm going to speak about spirits. Now, tell me what you said before, because I think we had a trifecta there.
So I asked,
LGBT.
yes, LGBTQ trans children, which also bridges over into the children of all walks,
Sure.
and obviously women and types of
Okay.
spirits that may kind of encompass all of them, or maybe ones that might be
No,
individualistic to those groups.
I've got two that will do all of them.
Oh,
It
perfect.
is a trifecta. But I will say that historically, over millennia, women and children have been particularly endangered. And when you read, I'm going to tell you ones that are very specifically and consciously associated with these groups.
Mm-hmm.
But when you read that a spirit protects women, that means all women. Yeah, it's not all women except trans women, all
Mm-hmm.
women except lesbians, unless there is a very specific. In general, if it's women, it's women. If it's children, it's children. And just to, you know almost not slice their domains up too much.
Mm-hmm.
If they say, one of the things you do when you're working with a spirit is you tell them why they should, especially if they're new to you, tell them why they should help you. Tell them why it's their job. And maybe it's because you want protection for your child, and because you are a guardian of children,
Mm-hmm.
period. And that is just something you have a right. You have a right, you have a birthright, and to exercise that right. But the ones that I was thinking about specifically are the Egyptian goddess Isis, and the Anatolian, I don't even know what you would call her right now. She's so ancient. The goddess, who is now most commonly known as Cybele
Mm-hmm.
or Kibele, or her ancient Hittite name is Kubaba. So I think I think the intimidation of her name I'm always surprised she's not more popular, you know friend of Hecate.
Mhm.
She is the mountain mother, Rome's Magna Mater, the great mother, and both of them are very associated. Sibella, in particular, is a guardian of women and children and a guardian of trans people. She her her clergy was women and trans women. So that is very much it. Apparently she was doing her priests
Mhm.
were doing sexual organ reassignment surgery thousands of years ago successfully.
That's
So,
incredible.
oh yeah, oh no, I mean she's one of my own favorite goddesses. I love her very much. um she's just really a powerful and unpretentious and fierce and loving mother. you
Mhm.
know the mother who is sometimes scary, but that's what you
Yeah.
want from a guardian spirit. This is, I was like, if you are getting a guard dog, wh- what are you going to get? I mean, I will tell you quite frankly that some of the fiercest dogs I've ever met are chihuahuas.
It's so
But I
true.
wouldn't put but if I just but for the intimidation factor, if you just want them in your backyard, that's not gonna work. Everybody goes for like the big ones. The ones that look mean in our minds, even if they're big babies.
Mhm.
So there is, you have to just because someone has a scary side to them doesn't necessarily, sometimes they may have to. So um Isis, I think, is one of the most famous goddesses of the world.
Yes.
Isis, Isis, there's a whole mythos. There's a whole saga of the goddess Isis. I always want to find a comic artist because I'd love to do it as a comic book. Isis has this great, just this mythology. I
Mhm.
used to teach mythology and folklore in a public school in Los Angeles, and it was after school and K through 5, and so a lot of little kids. And school had been out since 11:30, but they had to sit there
Mhm.
until like 7 o'clock. I was at the late shift, waiting for someone to come and pick them up, and I would tell them the story of Isis, and they would like you could see they got it because
Mhm.
Isis. There is a point where she's in danger, and her baby is in danger, and she has to go live among people and live. She can't. It's a little bit like the uh the Sleeping Beauty Disney story where
Mhm.
she can't use the fairies can't use their power because then they'll betray their location. So
Yep.
she can't use her magic power, but she has this very, very endangered baby. And she becomes incredibly sympathetic to the plight of people because she lives among us, and she has to sort of live as us. And so she is uh, the guardian of women and children, and everyone, really. I mean, she's not a guardian of men.
Mhm.
you know I There are spirits who have favorites, and will tell you that Artemis and Athena, for example, really, really have a very soft spot for lesbians. And I think are guardians very specifically for them.
Mhm.
And Apollo for gay men. And there are,
Yes.
members of I think the Greek pantheon is very easy for Westerners. We're pretty much familiar with them. But the Yoruba pantheon also, and for trans people, um, there are very specific deities, but
Mhm.
Isis is for everybody. Isis doesn't care about your sexual orientation. She doesn't care. You know, it's just she is a being of love and protection. And if you need protection, you can call on her. She is an easy deity to build an altar for.
Mhm.
I'm taking a lot of this material from my book, Encyclopedia of Spirits,
Yes.
and it is actually an encyclopedia, and it will go through spirits by name. So Isis, and it will tell you their attributes, and attributes is the fancy name for their symbols, the things that represent them.
Mhm.
And those are the things that you would put on an altar. And essentially they are the hallmarks of that deity. I posted a picture on Twitter. I mean, it may have been today, not yesterday, just in the wee hours. And it's a picture of Hecate. It didn't say Hecate,
Mhm.
but people recognized it. Like if I, there are symbolic pictures. If I post Hecate, it had the dog, it had a torch. If I do Yemaya, it's blue and it will have fish, and
Mhm.
and she'll be in the ocean, and you'll recognize her. It's it's the same way that if you're a Christian and you see, and if you see a picture of Jesus, no one has to tell you it's Jesus. It's Jesus. It's the same
Yes.
sort of thing. So that is how you create the altar. If you are living with people who are not sympathetic, you don't have to have a statue. It is very easy to make an altar just look like um, a tableau of like objects. And if you don't know what connects them, you may just think, oh, so that's some strange interior decorating. So for Isis, you would scorpions, images of scorpions, um, images of she's associated with certain kinds of birds,
Mhm.
frankincense and more incense. Isis is easy to get statues of. There are
Yeah.
tons of, you can, from like statue sellers to museum shops selling reproductions of ancient Egyptian art. She has her baby Horus, who is very, very important to her. Isis is both of these spirits are very friendly spirits. They like
Mhm.
other spirits. So you can decorate Isis's altar, you can have a statue of her, and you can have, all her friends. Um, you can have her true love Osiris, and you can have her son, and you can have her sister Nephthys, and she's got the seven scorpion guardians, and so she's associated with the plant vervain. And you just sort of put these things out there on, and you arrange them. And the important thing with an altar, if it is going to be an active altar, because you can create an altar that is just sort of almost like a battery.
Mhm.
It's just generating energy, and
Yep.
it's just sitting there and you're not doing anything. But if you want the spirit's protection and you want to, talk to them, talk to them in the language you are most comfortable with, talk to them in plain language, don't say anything you don't understand, and tell them what you need politely, politely. Light a candle, you know, please, Isis. I you know, I, I would like to have your protection. Tell her, and tell her what. Cybele is, there are a lot of statues of her. There are reproductions. She's ancient.
Mhm.
I, this is no way to prove this, but there's the enthroned queen, that the statue that was found at Çatal Hayuk,
Mhm.
the which is in
Yeah.
Turkey. I think that's, for me. I think that's visibly Cybele. She it is a woman on a throne,
Mhm.
supported by big cats, lions, or leopards. Those are her sacred creatures. She was There's a whole saga with her. She's a witch. She's the first goddess is a witch, and she was a disappointment to her father, the king, who
Mhm.
exposed her. She was a child who was left out to die, but leopards and lions rescued her. And at that time, she comes from an area called Anatolia, which is largely what is now modern Turkey.
Mhm.
And at that time, there were leopards and lions there. So that is, historically accurate. But they raised her, they nursed her, and they are her first family. And so, if you are going to appeal to Sibella as a goddess, do not be a big game hunter.
Oh, yeah.
you can't
No.
ask you can't ask for protection and also, shoot a sacred creature. Being nice to cats in general is probably a good thing. She is, but you don't even. She's so simple. You don't even need an altar for her, because Sibella is her name means cave, She is lit, and you can interpret that as uterus also. You can interpret
Oh,
that as a
wow.
vulva, the cave, the birth
Mm-hmm.
canal going into the cave. But she's also in the earth. She is a goddess of the earth, but she's in the earth. And if you want to speak to her and you have some privacy so people won't think you're too weird, you can just go down and whisper into the earth. If you have a cave, you can go in and sit there and talk to her in the cave, but you can literally whisper in the earth. And that is a mode of speaking with her. But if you were to build an altar for her, she is identified as the creator of percussion instruments, and
Okay.
iron as the most protective metal.
Mm-hmm.
So she's associated with castanets and cymbals and frame drums and tambourines. You could put some of them, you could drum for her. You can, there's a great book by Lane Redmond called When the Drummers Were Women, and it discusses this goddess in particular, but other goddesses also. She is a friend of Hecate. I have a statue that I want to say I got it from Sacred Source, but it's reproduced elsewhere too. It's a reproduction of the two of them together. Isabella on her throne and Hecate standing next to her, and they look like they're chatting and having a good time. So I would decorate her altar with toys, toy like those reproduction lions and leopards and cats, and she likes, she dances with Dionysus,
Mm-hmm.
who is also a patron of, I get the letters mixed up, LGBTQT, is that correct?
LGBT LGBTQIA.
PTQ. I am
Just
slightly
alphabet,
dyslexic,
the
and I
alphabet soup group. That's the easiest way to say. They're definitely, there's a lot of letters
a
and
lot of
it's
letters.
very easy to mix them up. For the longest time I used to just say LGBTQ and just call it that because that was the only
But
way that
there's
my brain.
more.
Yeah, there's so many more and
Let me
I
tell you
think
something. I did
it's
yoga for
crazy.
years, and I never got the steps to the salutation of the sun right. I mean, I always had to watch. So I just that ordering of more than two or three things is very hard for me,
Mhm.
unless I'm like looking, I'm looking at it written. Um, but I would. She likes her devotees to feast with her, and very simple, unpretentious food, the food that you would find in Turkey, um, and the traditional food. So not fancy modern Turkish food, for example, but things like feta cheese and olives and wine, and that's what I would put out for her. She likes, she's a goddess of craft. She's a
Mhm.
mom. Make her something. Like the way your mom, like, when you're little and you make your mom a macaroni frame and she like treasures it.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah,
Do
yeah,
macaroni art with your gods. I love it so
yeah.
much. And
Well, she
it
get some pasta that is made from, like, Greek or Turkish or Italian grain. You can go to the supermarket, get some pasta and like make her a thing. She is originally from that sort of heartland of Anatolia, which is also where Hecate is from. They're old friends. She is Greek mythology identifies her with Rhea,
Mhm.
who is Zeus's mother. Although it's not, it gets very confusing when you do that because they have very different mythology. Um, and when you just try to identify the two gods, oh, the Greeks historically, they believed in many gods, but they
Mhm.
believed in their gods. And so when they would go to Egypt or somewhere else and they would see other gods, they would try to figure out which one of theirs it was under a different name. And so they identify that, and the technical term for that is identification.
Okay.
Um, and so they identify Sibella with Rhea, but who is also, sometimes associated with lions. And there's a maternal aspect to them, but they they're not the same, and they have a very, very different mythology. The Romans believed that they came from Troy originally. They were survivors. refugees from the Trojan War who had escaped and eventually found in Rome.
Mm-hmm.
And when things were not going well for them with Hannibal and the Carthaginian Wars, there was a prophecy that if they went and got Cybele, they would win the war. Go get mom, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And um, they did. They went. The earliest known depiction of Cybele is as a meteor, and it's very interesting when you look at these. It was like a meteor, a piece of iron that was set into a statue, and it is very similar to some Black Madonnas,
Mm-hmm.
at least visually of today. But they went and they got the I mean, how did they get the statue? That's a good question. But they went and got that statue and brought it back to Rome, and they won. And then she became, in Latin, their magna mater, their great mother.
Their great mother.
Yeah.
Yes. That's incredible. And it's very interesting that you're talking about her because I knew her name, but I
Mhm.
didn't know anything really about her. She was one of those, kind of obscure goddesses and gods. There's
Yeah, she's very sort of ethereal.
so
It,
many of
it's very
them.
interesting because she seems very ethereal, but she's a
Hmm.
very earthy goddess. She's definitely, she's a Taurus. Like, we have her birthday. We have her festivals. I write about her a lot in Encyclopedia of Spirits,
Hmm.
but also in Daily Magic.
Yes.
Um, I because her festivals were on the Roman calendar, and so there's a whole bunch of feast days associated with her, and they are in my book, the most recent book, Daily Magic, and which is a calendar. It's a perpetual
Hmm.
calendar. You can use it every year. You don't have to buy a new copy. And it those feast days, if you devote yourself to a deity, or if you want to introduce yourself, or if you think this might be the right one and you want help, it's essentially like their office hours are open. it's it is a powered time
Yes.
to connect with them. And so there's a lot of Cybele and her lover Addis in that book, and also in Encyclopedia of Spirits.
Okay. That is a really amazing thing to learn about. And as you're talking about her, I'm like, I see a lot of similarities to her that I see in Freya as well.
Yes, yes.
Which is really interesting. So I'm like, oh, well, maybe the universe kind of just put you guys all on the same cloth and cut you guys together, which is great. Um, I'm
Well, and
very excited.
Freya is also very strongly associated as a guardian of women. And the
Hmm.
thing with Freya and Cybele and Hecate is, we're talking of very specific categories of people. They are
Yes.
also guardians of magical practitioners.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
so, whatever else you identify as, if you are a magical practitioner, they are your guardians.
Hmm. They're your guardians. They are your teachers. They are almost your guides in some ways as well. I kind of look
Yeah.
as in my work with Freya, it's very interesting because I will see her a little bit as that friend you can kind of come to for guidance, but she's also that teacher who will teach you all of the magical ways. And she
Hmm.
is that guardian that will be there
Yeah.
and protect you if you need her to.
Yeah.
She's just as fierce as Hecate or even
Sure.
any of the aspects of the Morgan, and just amazing, amazing deities. These are all really great deities to work with. And I love how you talked about how easy it was to work with Isis. When I first got into witchcraft and I chose my deities, I chose Isis. Isis was the first female
Sure.
deity I ever worked with, and she was incredibly easy to work with until I realized I was like, I chose you, you didn't really choose me, and I don't know if we were actually meant to work together, but she basically tolerated me kind of
Well, I
playing
think
her.
Isis is, there's a kindness
Yeah.
and a generosity to Isis, but there is, I do subscribe to personally to the Rumi quote, that which you are seeking is causing you to seek.
Hmm.
So, I mean, toleration isn't a bad thing
No, it's
necessarily.
not a bad thing. I'm very thankful for all the years that I shared with her. I even still have a athame that
Yeah,
has her, I guess you could say, likeness carved onto it, which I still love and adore and will keep forever because it's beautiful. But yeah, she always will have a soft spot in my heart no matter what I do. No, but she is no longer one of my patron deities, but
yeah, yeah.
she's like an old friend that I would sit down
Yeah,
and
but I
have
mean
tea
that's
with.
how it is sometimes.
Yeah.
They sort of come into your life and they go, and and even altars don't have to be permanent.
Mm-hmm.
Some altars are permanent. This may be an altar that you're going to have all your life, and your children will inherit, or a student will inherit them, and it
Yes.
will keep going. But some altars, you put them up for, especially healing altars.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of healing altars where, especially for dangerous illnesses, you put them up for a while and then you dismantle them. There's a spell for, I mean, it's for smallpox, but I mean,
Which
it's
is
also
really
used for,
relevant now.
yeah, well, for Babalu, I mean, and it is in a couple of my books, but it is basically you construct it and then you deconstruct. You
Mm-hmm.
construct it, you leave it on for a little while, and you deconstruct it, because when you are working with, there's a whole class of disease spirits. The spirits that bring. It used to be that illnesses were perceived as living presences, and that when you were ill with something serious, like not just a cold, but you were essentially possessed.
Mm-hmm.
And so you want to exercise them, or ask them nicely to leave, and you don't want them to feel too comfortable in your home. Here's your little tribute. I acknowledge you. Please leave. I'm going to take apart this altar now.
Yes. And then I also kind of in similarities to that, I have a standing healing altar that, like you were saying before, that altars are kind of batteries in some ways.
Right,
My healing
right,
altar is mostly a battery,
right.
and is dedicated to the goddess Air, who is one of the Norse goddesses of healing. And so
Yes,
she's Era is beautiful and fantastic, and I love her to pieces. But hers is more of a standing altar. I don't do much, but occasionally light a candle on it with it, and occasionally
sure.
we'll put a small libation on it. But other than that, I don't do anything else with it. It's stagnant. It stays the same, and it's just a battery for her to have her own space because I didn't want her on. I wanted her to
Right,
have her own space because I do so much healing work, but I also do more of my healing work at my main altar. And I just wanted her to have her own space, and that's what she does. And that's also where my Reiki box sits as well. So,
perfect.
yeah.
Right. You know, I'd like to point out that this is not just for pagans.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
there is this is unofficial. Like, this is, the Vatican does not condone this, but Saint Sebastian is unofficially the patron saint of gay men,
Mm-hmm.
and that is not like a recent thing. That's for centuries, because people are people, and people need protection, and some people have been persecuted for a long time. And so, you know, the the saint doesn't seem to have a problem with it. The Vatican might have a problem. The saint has been extending protection for centuries, and there are a lot of beautiful paintings of Saint Sebastian. You'll see a man. The primary image is of his martyrdom. He's a man tied to a tree with a bunch of arrows sticking out of him. It
Oh.
almost looks a little bit like the Ten of Swords tarot card.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he has a feast day, and he is very helpful. And even more unofficial, Santa Muerte, Saint Death, who does not share altars. Um, but Santa Muerte, the thing with Santa Muerte is death,
Mm-hmm.
and death accepts everyone.
Yes.
That's, everybody dies. She doesn't, you know, you don't not die because. So
If we
Santa
had
and
a
Santa
not
Muerte.
dying problem, then I don't think we would have the issues that we have today
Oh
because,
God, yeah. I mean,
we'd
I
have a
just, I mean,
population issue then.
she's on my mind because I actually just finished editing a book dedicated to her. Secrets of Santa Muerte
Mm-hmm.
by Cressida Stone, which you can pre-order. I think it'll be available maybe in the fall. but it's up for pre-order now, and it's a lot of instructions on building altars because that is very central to devotion to Santa Muerte. And and even though she's a saint, she's a folk saint.
Mm-hmm.
She's the Vatican is preaches against her very, very strongly, if
Yes.
only because she takes funds away from them. But you know,
I think if you also want to know a little bit more about Santa Muerte, I believe that she is mentioned in Llewellyn's Little Book of the Day of the Dead by Jaime Guerones, who
sure.
also was interviewed on the show. So if you would like to go
Oh
back
wow.
and listen to that episode, folks, you totally can. But he talks about so many amazing Mexico and American and Latin deities that are associated with that holiday. And I believe that Santa Muerte is mentioned in that book. Also, a really great book, just for the record.
Well, a lot of folk saints, and when we call them folk saints, we mean that people from people venerate them as, yeah, because the people who come from majority Catholic countries
Mm-hmm.
know this is like there's a method of veneration, and they do it in honor of only Catholicism has official saints.
Yes.
I do have a book called Encyclopedia of Mystic Saints and Sages.
Mm-hmm.
Most religions, not all of them, but most of them have saints. There are Buddhist saints, Sufi saints, Jewish saints, Hindu saints, but they sort of pop up because they start producing miracles. And maybe they stay for a while and then maybe they stop. But there's no Vatican to say, well, this is how you do it. And so a lot of the folk saints in areas that at least have historically been primarily Catholic are very, very open to people of you know, all walks of life, all orientations, children, women, people, and sex workers
Mm-hmm.
who are incredibly endangered.
Yes.
Um, because they're saints, but they're not like the perception is that that the official saints, the canonized saints, will, if you're not behaving in the prescribed manner, will refuse you. Oh, you're not following the rules, I won't help you. Folk saints aren't like that.
Yeah. And I think that, as you kind of also mentioned, that altars are also for everybody. They're not just for witches as well. If you're just
Yep,
somebody that wants to set up a holy space,
yep,
um, to even Jesus, if you want to, you can set up a holy space in your
sure.
home that technically is an altar. But you don't have to call it an altar. You can just call it your holy prayer space or whatever you'd like to call it that makes you
I
more comfortable.
I think that wherever you feel endangered, and a lot of people feel endangered at work,
Mm-hmm.
and you might not want to give too much of yourself away, but you can create what is an altar, and other people will just think is, oh, look, it's your little collection. You
Yes.
you you pick like the the crystals that do what that you pick objects that fulfill your goal. It could be flowers, it could be plants, you could have a potted plants, cactuses for protection. They're spiky.
Mm-hmm.
um you can get like little toy animals or little statues of and it doesn't have to be official, it can be what makes you feel safe. If an angel makes you feel safe, get an image of an angel. People don't even look at that stuff. They're just going to go, oh, look, they made their space pretty.
Yeah,
Uh,
they made their space
y-
pretty.
if you don't tell people, you can fly under their radar a lot.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it could be something that is just absolutely innocuous almost. Like, it's something that is
Yeah,
just completely obscure to someone else, but is very beneficial to you. And there's so many great things. And the other thing too is because it is Pride Month, if you want to create a Pride altar that you
yes,
set up for Pride and take down at the end of Pride, absolutely you can.
yeah,
You can do that just
definitely.
like you could for a Halloween altar or
I,
a
I,
any
I put
altars.
down, get a pride flag, or it could be a small one or a big one. Make that your altar cloth.
Oh, that would
Um,
be neat.
right?
Oh, that's cool.
You get images of deities that are associated as guardians, whether it's Apollo and Artemis or Esli-Dantor, or, the very, there's a Yoruba spirit, Erinle, Loganete. I mean, I think we're going to run out of time. We could come back and talk about these, but get their images or get something that represents them. It doesn't, if you need, your safety is so important.
Yes,
and and
absolutely.
and people are so afraid of spirits often, or ghosts. Don't worry about them. Worry about people. People are
The
the
dead are not
dangerous.
scary, the living are.
Right. So I mean, if you are living with people who will give you, you want to build this altar, but you're living with people who will, may endanger you to whatever degree, do it really discreetly.
Hmm.
um because you know what it is. That's the most important, and it's most important for you to be safe.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we are about out of time. So, Judica, can you tell everybody where they can find you? I know if you guys have already listened to the previous show, this might sound a little bit redundant, but for those who haven't, where can you
I
find?
hope the next time I come back, Pagan, I hope the next time I come back, I'll have my website back up.
Yay, that'll be
The
awesome.
website, I mean, the website, I mean, I think it's semi-functional right now. You got to get through whatever weirdness is there, but I keep thinking it's down and the people buy readings from me, so I go, oh, I guess it's still there. But I'm on Twitter. I'm on Twitter pretty much every day. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Instagram, watch out. Please watch out for the imposters. Um,
Yes.
yeah, they're just terrible. And Instagram does nothing about it. So just watch out for imposters. I don't hit up people for readings. I will never, if you have a private account, I will never ask for an invite,
Hmm.
So if somebody does that, it's not me.
Yeah.
And and I know I'm around.
Well, there's so many amazing books out there by Judica. Make sure you guys all grab a copy. There will be lots and lots of wonderful links in the show notes. As always, you guys can definitely check those out. Also, make sure you guys are staying safe out there. It is a really
Yeah.
crazy time and it's very turbulent energy and all that. So just be
And
aware, be safe, and take care of yourselves, please. We don't want anybody to get hurt. We don't want anybody to go through any kind of scary situations. Just be safe and, be aware. There's a lot happening and make sure you guys are definitely being aware. So, I'm going to say thank you so much to Judica for coming by. You have always blessed us with so much amazing knowledge, as always. I actually will be talking about you after we stop recording for when you're going to come back by because I already have a plan for what I'd like to talk to you about next. So it's going to be a good time. And as always, guys, I will see you next week. So bye, everybody.